To understand the significance of the US 30 Cedar River Bridge as the first of its kind, we'll take a brief look back at the history of bridges before and through the advent of steel. In the early pioneer period in Iowa and elsewhere, bridges featured simple wooden stringers with no deck or a rudimentary deck. Later bridges were constructed of iron stringers supporting a wood deck. Railroad companies led the development of iron bridge technology in the 19th century, since iron offered a stronger and more durable support than timber for trains that were becoming increasingly large and heavy. But cast iron was brittle, so by the late 19th century, first wrought iron and eventually steel replaced it for use in railroad and road bridges. As steel-making processes improved during the mid to late 19th century, steel surpassed other materials in strength and durability, so steel became the metal of choice for use in bridges and other structures. Before the development of continuous girder systems, girder bridges were designed as one or more simple spans, in which each end of each girder rested on a pier or abutment with no intermediary supports. The use of longer spans with intermediary supports required engineers to develop new methods of stress analysis before continuous bridges could be designed safely, but the benefits of this design were clear. A continuous bridge requires less material than a series of simple spans of the same total length, with the savings especially notable for longer bridges. Continuous bridges also have a structural advantage, including increased rigidity and the fact that a load at any one point can be distributed throughout the entire structure. Eventually, the engineering difficulties were overcome, and continuous bridges began to be built in increasing numbers in the early 20th century. The earliest continuous bridges in Iowa date to the 1920s and 1930s. Another technology used in the US 30 bridge that did not become widely used until the 1940s was the manufacture of built-up girders used in welding. As bridges grew in size and were expected to carry more traffic, either automobiles or railroads, larger girders became necessary to carry the additional weight and to increase the possible length of individual spans. Before welding became feasible, beams had to be built up from multiple components: web, flanges, angles, and rivets or bolts. This method of manufacturing had several disadvantages. The rivet holes in the beams weakened the beams, and the use of angles and rivets added weight to the beam, increased its cost, and increased its use of steel, which was sometimes a scarce commodity, especially during World War II and the post-war years. These problems were solved by welding. A welded girder could be constructed of one web and two flanges without the need for angles, rivets, or bolts. This design required substantially less structural steel and formed a stronger beam. Technological advances in the 1930s made welding technology safer and more reliable, and it came to be used increasingly in the United States, although its use in bridges was limited before World War II. By the early 1950s, all the individual components that went into the US 30 bridge were familiar to highway engineers in Iowa. The earliest known steel continuous welded high girder bridges in Iowa were built in the late 1940s. The earliest of this type that has been verified was completed in 1949. This bridge, the Benton Street Bridge in Iowa City, was removed in 1989. The US 30 bridge, built in 1953, was the first bridge of this type in Iowa known to have used a floor beam system rather than multiple girders separated by diaphragms. Instead, the US 30 bridge employed two major girders, transverse beams, and steel stringers to support the deck. Girder bridges with floor beams reached a heyday in the 1960s, when approximately 1 out of every 10 steel girder bridges built in Iowa used floor beams. In the 1970s, the Iowa Department of Transportation began shifting to structural types that increase system redundancy in order to improve long-term safety. The last bridge built in Iowa that was similar to the US 30 bridge was constructed in 1981.